Welcome to the Expert Edge. This is the show where we bring on experts in their fields of health and wellness and lifestyle to hear their stories and learn what they see working in the field of diabetes reversal and prevention. And I'm happy to introduce today's guest, Kayla Walter. Welcome, Kayla.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know, as we think about dealing with diabetes, whether we're trying to prevent it or reverse it, I have found in my work with so many clients that stress is a huge factor. Like stress all by itself can raise your blood sugars. And so today we want to talk about some tips and some education that's going to help you reduce the financial stress in your life. And so that's what our interview is going to be about today, which is why I brought in Kayla Walter, who is a certified financial planner. She's been a professional in this area for almost a decade, working to assist high net worth individuals and families with their financial planning needs. She loves planning and organizing, and so she decided to bring her wealth of knowledge on planning processes to Bailey Wealth Advisors, where she currently operates as the financial planning manager. So she took the knowledge and the experience that she gained at that firm and combined it with her personal entrepreneurship studies. And so now what she does is she serves high income and high net worth women professionals and retirees, as well as young professionals. So her educational background is like a bachelor's and master's degree in finance, and she's passionate about teaching financial literacy. So I'm just really excited that she's agreed to be here with us today. And I know we're all going to learn something helpful and practical in our own lives. But before we dive into the nuts and bolts, Kayla, tell us a little bit about how did you get started in your interest at that intersection of lifestyle, wealth management, especially at your young age?
Yeah, so honestly, for me, totally happenstance. Really had no idea what I was going to do. When I discovered finance, I was like, okay, cool, I'm majoring in finance. Everyone's like, what are you going to do with that degree? I don't know. I guess I'll be an analyst somewhere. But, you know, as God would have it, I was introduced to the program like my sophomore year in college. Our finance department director at the time was like, hey, I have this new program that you can join and you'll be able to take this test after you graduate. And I was just like, okay, cool. Sign me up. Like, let's go. And that's really how I got introduced to this field.
Oh, that's so interesting. And, obviously, you're at a great place in life. A lot of times, those of us that are a little older look back and we're like, oh, if I'd only known then, back when I was in my 20s, what I know now in my 50s or my 60s, I would have made some different decisions. But I want to know from your perspective, what is the connection that you've noticed as you work with clients across the age brackets between health and financial situation that people often deal with in their later years?
Yes. So before I dive into it, let me satisfy my compliance people. So
Sure.
as you guys already know, my name is Kayla Walter. So I am a financial advisor. And we do here at Bailey Wealth Advisors, we are partnered with Osaic and we do offer securities and investment services through Osaic. So get that out of the way first. All right. And then
Not
back
a
to our
problem.
question.
Yeah,
Yes.
when we're dealing with
All right.
finances, there's always these little I's to dot and T's to cross. So you're doing that, and I love that. So
Yes.
yeah, back
Not trying.
to yeah, the
Yes.
situation that people
So,
have between health and aging and all that. So yeah.
yeah, so like the connection between like health and finances, it's really direct because the older you get, obviously, your health insurance premiums are going up the older you get, life insurance premiums are going up the older you get, you got increased drug costs, if you need specialized care, obviously that costs money as well, and things can get very expensive. So if you don't have a plan or don't have, an endless amount of resources available to help you cover this, especially as you get, later on in life, then, sometimes you can end up choosing between like, do I pay for medicine or do I pay for food? And
Mm,
sadly, that's a real, reality for a lot of seniors as they get older and just
mhm.
having to choose between medicine and food and daily sustenance and things like that. So yeah, the connection definitely can be very direct.
So if we don't take care of our health, we can often end up in quite a hole financially just because of mounting medical expenses. Is that what I'm hearing?
100%. Yeah.
And, a lot of people, especially if they're feeling good or they're not sick yet, like they're younger, maybe they're in their 30s or their 40s, and they're like, I feel great. Um, don't spend a lot of time thinking about how are my choices today going to affect me financially down the road. Do you
Mhm.
find that people are really realistically prepared to cover expenses in life and maintain their lifestyle during retirement in general?
So, I mean, off, the cuff, I would say no, but to give, some actual numbers to it,
Yeah.
there was a recent study done by Jackson National Life, and they found that nearly two-thirds of individuals that they surveyed are grossly underestimating how much their prospective expenses will cost them in retirement.
Interesting. That's a lot. That's more than half of people think they're going to spend less than they actually have to spend when they get into
Mhm.
retirement. That's a
Yeah.
pretty serious problem if you get to retirement and you're on a fixed income and then you find out that things cost more. So your lifestyle can take a real nosedive in that
Mhm.
kind of a situation. So I would love to hear from you. What are the top five strategies you would suggest for people in their 50s and 60s to successfully navigate the later years financially? Let's kind of break that down one at a time. Top five strategies.
Right. I don't think I have five for you, but I can give you like
Okay.
my top two.
Okay.
So,
We'll dive into those.
number one, like 50s and your 60s, if you haven't already talk to an advisor or a planner, get in front of them. Like, go talk to somebody, find somebody you like, find somebody that you trust. Maybe, get a recommendation from a friend, whatever it is, but go talk to a financial planner and get a financial plan done, because these are the people that are going to be able to tell you, how well prepared you actually are, going into retirement, even if, you're in retirement already, but they'll be able to look at, what your current investment structure is, looking at all, like, the whole gamut of your financial life. Like, are you adequately covered? Do you have your affairs in order? Does your investment strategy for retirement take into consideration things like market volatility and inflation? And I mean, we're all watching and seeing what's happening, in the world right now. So,
Yes.
you really want to get in front of somebody that can literally go through your entire financial situation from A to Z, not just looking at your investments, but also taking into consideration, what's your cash flow going to be like in retirement, what your potential healthcare costs and needs will be in retirement, and help you to, get the protection you need, get documents in place if you need them. All of those things. And then, of course, number two, and something that you talk about all the time as well, is really just staying active and eating well. And just covering your bases like that. Because obviously, the healthier you are, the less it's going to cost you in retirement. And most people know when it comes to getting insurances and things like that, the healthier you are, it definitely, you're going to pay less. You are going to pay
Yeah.
less for coverage the healthier you are, and also the younger you are. So the earlier you do it, um, the better. So those
That's
are my
great
top.
advice. And I want to kind of dig into that first one, talking about getting in front of a financial advisor. Say I don't really have any friends that are can recommend one to me. What are some of the things I can look for when I'm evaluating financial advisors that maybe I find online that are in my community or nearby? How would I know like what to look for to identify somebody that might be reliable, reputable? Are there special certifications or lists or like where would you send someone?
Right. So first and foremost, even if you go to Google and type in fiduciary advisors, the first thing you're probably going to see is something from the CFP board. The CFP board is a great place to start. If you go on like CFP.net, you'll get an entire directory of CFP professionals in your area, or even
Mm,
just across the country, because a lot of, financial planners, us included, we work virtually now. We have clients all over. And so going there, start there, look for someone who has those credentials, because they are held to a fiduciary standard, which means we have an obligation to act in your sole best interest. And so starting
yeah.
there, is a great place.
I love that. And I think something that many people may not realize is like if you go to somebody to help you like buy stocks and bonds or things like that, that does not mean they're necessarily a fiduciary advisor. So this
Mm.
CFP,
P.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Certified Financial Planner,
Hmm.
CFP.net, will help you find people that are actually certified and they're in a position to advocate for you. So, like, they're working
Yes.
for you. They're not getting commissions from these products they're trying to sell you, but they're actually working on your side. And I think that's a really important difference to understand, because you might have a CPA, you might have a tax accountant, but that's not the same thing.
Hmm.
So, looking for a really solid fiduciary that can work for you is a great place to start. And then the second point you brought up, I love, which is take care of your health. So,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit more about that. What are some simple things that like you might recommend to your clients in terms of staying healthy? I heard a few in that list. Let's take them one at a time.
I mean, probably everything that you would recommend to your clients as well. It's like, okay, we all want to eat good food, but we can't eat, junk food,
Yeah.
um, and sugar every day. And this is me preaching to the choir because I definitely love my salty treats and my sugar as well. Um,
Uh-huh.
but really figuring out ways to incorporate healthy food in your diet. Something I've been trying to do, especially after lunch, is get up and take a walk outside every day, which is getting a little bit easier now that it is, warming up here in this area. So getting your steps in, like I'm trying to go for like 7 to 10,000 a day. I feel like
Good
that's
for
what the
you.
professionals
Yes.
recommend.
That's
You know,
awesome, Kayla. I love
getting
that.
getting steps in. So like I'm on the journey myself. I'm trying.
Yes. And I love that because I love seeing young people that are taking it seriously and doing these really simple things. Walking after you eat is like a number one time and place to move your body. It really
Yeah.
addresses a lot of issues at the same time and is super, super helpful. And so I love that tip. If you're not already doing that, that's something you could start today. And you don't have to be like out there training for a marathon. All you have to do is be moving your arms and your legs. I know people that have done that when they're using a walker and have
Mhm.
actually lowered their blood sugars, even walking around the living room with a walker for 30 minutes after they ate. So this is like something anybody can do. And you, even if you can't walk, you can sit in a wheelchair or a chair in your house and do things that move your arms and your legs for that 30 minutes,
Mhm.
and it will make a difference. So yeah, so there's one really simple tip. And of course, avoiding all the junk food that you already know is junk food. It's like you don't need somebody with a master's degree to tell you what that is. You
Right.
know, just get some support around that. Get somebody to say, yes, I'll do it with you. And it can make a huge difference. Are there any
100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. What tools would you recommend to people to help them with planning?
Yeah. So, like the first tool, obviously, talk to an advisor, right? Talk to a
Okay.
financial planner to get help. And then outside of that, just being proactive with your finances. You can Google, best budgeting tools. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many out there like Monarch Money that'll help you budget your finances. I believe there's one called like You Need a Budget. Dave Ramsey has an app called Every Dollar. There are
Mm-hmm.
resources and things out there that will help you get on track, especially if you don't already know like where your money is going. You really want to figure that out first. And then, you can do that on your own if you feel like you're, capable and self-motivated enough to do that, or you can go out and get some help, because that's one of the things that we also start with our clients is we have them fill out an expense spreadsheet because we want to know how much is coming in and what's going out and where it's going. So that's also like a really really great start. And then if you're still working, obviously you have access to your employer plans, your health insurance. You may have some type of wellness or well-being plan in there where they might reimburse gym fees or any number of things. Most companies have gotten really proactive with things like that, so check that out. See what your employee benefits package offers, because there are so many things in there beyond just your salary. Like your compensation is much more, like your total compensation is much more than just your salary. So look and see, if you're still working, what your employer offers in that regard as a tool. And then, also, if eating healthy is an issue, and again, speaking to the choir, looking into hiring like a nutritionist, a dietitian,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some, holistic medicine doctor, something like that. That can also help you on your journey. And then first and foremost, it's really like, I guess, the whole thing to this is community. Nobody does anything alone. Finding a great community of people that are going to keep you on track, keep you motivated, and keep you in the game. So,
Totally. That's so important. In fact, I find that many people know exactly what they need to do to get healthier, but without a community that provides them support or accountability,
mhm.
they have a really hard time sticking to these choices or these new behaviors that they know they want to incorporate, but it just is really hard to do it all by yourself, which is one of the things I end up working with people with a lot, is helping them with that support and accountability piece. Now, as you have worked over the years with clients in different places in their lives, I would love to hear from you some stories about how people maybe successfully navigated these challenges so they could really enjoy their retirement years.
Yeah, so the thing about working in wealth management in different firms, you have different clients in all walks of life. So at the first firm that I was privileged enough to work at, a lot of those clients were very, very sufficient. So it really didn't matter here or there because they had resources to cover them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Being able to work with clients who have military backgrounds, obviously a big plus one to being a veteran is you have access to TRICARE for life. So you don't even have to worry about, some of those healthcare expenses. Like, yeah, there might be a copay or something on top of that, obviously worrying about Medicare, and paying that, but having access to health insurance coverage in retirement is big. And then of course, even now in working here, a lot of success in retirement really comes through just proper planning. Even if you're not, you know, a mega millionaire, multimillionaire, whatever it is, you don't have to have $1 million to have a successful retirement. You just need a plan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, some of our older clients now, they're not complaining about, I mean, you complain about aches and pains or whatever, but kind of their biggest concerns now is just like, oh my God, I have this high tax bill. And so I'll take a tax bill problem over, a health problem or not being able to pay for my health care any day of the week. And so that's what we see currently with a lot of our clients. And that all just comes through, having a proper plan to retire, and going into retirement with that, going into retirement with long-term care if you need it. So you have a backstop of if I do get sick, if I do need specialized care, or specialized medicine, I got a backstop because it's better to have and not need than to need and not have.
Yes, I love that. I think that's really important things for people to be thinking about, no matter kind of where you are in your stage of life. Figure out, where am I, where do I need to go, and what kind of support do I need to make it there. It does remind me of one of my clients who came to a class. She'd been diagnosed as a diabetic, had been put on medication for her blood sugars, and the doctor told her, "You're going to be taking this for the rest of your life." And she didn't like that idea. And she saw an ad in the paper for a class I was teaching in the community to reverse diabetes. So she came to the class, and we had a couple of hours of education to get people kicked off and started. It was like an 8-week class. And she went home and she started applying and reading her books that she already had, her textbooks and so on, right away. And by the time she came to the next week's class, she had reversed her diabetes and didn't need her medications anymore. Now, that's not a typical story, but it was a real story. This really happened. And what I really love is what happened after that. Because not only did she get that short term result, but she stuck with her program of healthier choices. And over the next 2 years, she and her husband, who wasn't even part of the program, didn't even have diabetes, but the two of them lost 50 pounds each and had so much more energy and felt so good that they
That's
started making
amazing.
plans to travel, and they started taking
Hmm.
dancing classes. And one day she told me this story that I just thought was awesome. They were out walking, and it was a park where they walked pretty often, and they spotted a friend off in the distance with their dog, and her husband went jogging off and started playing with the dog on the lawn, chasing the dog was chasing him. And this other friend is standing next to her, and she's like, "Who's that guy down there?" And she's like, well, that's my husband, Dale. She's like, "Huh?" He looks like 20 years younger. I haven't seen him move like that in decades. And they hadn't even realized what a difference it was making in their mobility and their function. as they had lost weight and taken care of their health. And they
Mhm.
both are continuing to just love life. We're going on probably 5 years since that incident now. And even with other challenges that have come up in life, not related to her diabetes and so on, she has weathered them so well because she made the decision 5 years ago to do something about her health. And she still doesn't need medications for her blood sugar. And so I want people to know that this can really make a difference in your retirement years. You can feel better, feel more like traveling, going places. You don't want to be one of those stories of the people that retire so that they can now travel the world and do all the fun things and they're dead 6 months later because they had a
Yeah.
sudden heart attack, right? And they
Mhm.
never got to realize the dreams they had for retirement. I want
Mhm.
you to have a full life. I want you to have be in contribution in your families and your communities and your churches for as long as you live. It reminds me of my mother in a family full of diabetics. She is the oldest surviving of the 8 children. She is 96 years old. She doesn't have diabetes, but she is the most healthy of all of her siblings, all of which are younger than she is. In fact, she's taking care of a younger sibling that is currently living with her in a wheelchair. My mother, at 96 years old, just got her driver's license renewed until she's 100. She doesn't have to go to the DMV again. And she
That
drives
is
my aunt to
amazing.
all of her doctor's appointments. And, it really makes a difference. And that's what I
Mhm.
want you to take away from this. Because
Yeah.
if my mother had to be in long term care right now at the age of 96, like a lot of people are at 86 or 76,
Right. Right.
she would have absolutely nothing but government welfare to live on. And she wouldn't be getting the kind of care she needed. She wouldn't be able to be with her family. I mean, it would be a very different kind of life. And
Mhm.
you have a lot of choice about what kind of life you're going to experience as you go down the road here. So I want to give Kayla a chance to share with you something she wants to give you as a gift today. Just for being here with us today, she's got something special for you. So tell us about this. And the link for what she's going to talk about is right on this page where you're watching the video. It's right below the video. So yeah, Kayla, what are they going to get when they click on that link?
Yeah, 100%. When you click on that link, it's a direct link to my calendar. You can get a a complimentary introductory call to speak to myself or even one of my colleagues here at the firm. And we'd be happy to, go through, see what your concerns are and to see how we can best serve you. Because, the truth of the matter is while we don't do, what Lucia does in really helping you reverse diabetes, it is so important. We handle the financial side and everybody could
Mm-hmm.
use, someone like,
Mm-hmm.
Lucia on their team to help with that health side because they really are, two in one. And the healthier you are, like I mentioned earlier, the healthier you are, the cheaper it is for you to access,
Absolutely.
get access to good health care and good coverages in retirement. So yeah, complimentary introductory session with myself, one of my colleagues, and we'll see how we can best serve you.
I love that. So, like, don't pass that up. Here's an opportunity for you to lower stress in your life around your finances with a free consultation, which can give you some guidance and give you some ideas on what your next step might be so that you can actually live out your goals for later life, now and later life. So, take advantage of this. And I want you to know that anything you do now is going to help you down the road. When you make good decisions now, it will pay you back. You will have a return on your investment, which is what everybody's looking for. And before we close, I just wanted to ask you, Kay, if you have any like closing words of wisdom, something you really want people to walk away with today, something that is like can really give them like a bit of a guiding star as they look at decreasing financial stress in their lives.
Yeah, the earlier you start, the better. So the earlier you can get yourself on someone's calendar, the much better it'll be for you. And honestly, the big thing to relieving stress, and this is, for all of us, stress in any area, especially finances, is a number one reason for a lot of things and a lot of life-changing events that happen in our lives. But if you have a plan to just get your finances straight, that is one less thing you have to worry about. And that's probably one of the major things that you have to worry about in life because we're all wondering how we're going to keep paying our bills. So, like, the earlier you start, the better.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I just want you to remember that health is wealth and it comes by choice, not by
Mhm.
chance. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.